the button, Amy.
Hard-hitting political debate. The Political Spar with Jeremy Kyle on Talk.
In the red corner, it's been a while. I think it's a slightly Harry Potter-esque name, but I love her. Zoe Grunderweld from Hufflepuff. How are you?
Hello, I'm well. How are you?
I'm good, and he's back, looking lovely. He's had a haircut. James Price, former Conservative Special Advisor. Very special. How are you, pal?
I'm definitely a Slytherin, and I'm okay with it.
Good. Slytherin. Hufflepuff against Slytherin. I don't know what I'd have been. Welcome. So much to talk about. Oh, my God, so much did I miss. Just want to throw at both of you. On the day the Home Secretary says that the riots prove that UK has lost respect for the police, just want to give my take, because I'd love to hear from both of you. Right-wing thugs dealt with appropriately, quickly, prosecuted and imprisoned. My problem is only this, and I don't condone in any way anything that went on. If it's that possible to get the police to police correctly, if it's that possible for the government to find space in our prisons, if it's that possible for thugs behaving badly in our society to be dealt with, why is there a massive imbalance? Why is it all right for other groups of people to stab British soldiers or commit heinous knife crimes and nothing happens? Why is it that 4.5 weeks ago, long before I went away, that 2 men broke the nose of a female police officer at Manchester Airport? They still haven't been charged with assault. Is it fair to say, starting with you, Zoe, that this fell into Starmer's lap, but he has politicised these riots and is only dealing with one section of society and with a big brush, as Peter Blexley said, has painted anybody who disagrees with fundamental problems in this country as far right?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we have to remember that Keir Starmer has come into government, only been in government for a few months, having joined after 13, 14 years of Conservative austerity, gutting of police forces across the country. What we saw over the past week was a level of turmoil, conflict and unrest that we haven't seen in many, many years. And I think it was really important that the police and the government responded very quickly to that. There were people trying to set fire to hotels with migrants inside.
Zoe, I need to make the point. I am not condoning in any way. What I want to know is why such appropriate, speedy and necessary action, when apparently we've no police and no prison spaces, was taken, and nobody will answer me. Why is it, I know the answer, that it's been 4 weeks since that female police officer had her nose broken? Nothing. Before I went away, a serving British soldier was stabbed, nearly lost his life in front of his wife in Yorkshire. Has that person been paraded on television? Absolutely not. Am I not also right, without being accused of going over the edge of saying, that the Rotherham gangs who raped young girls, my daughter's age, by the way, 7 and 8, British Pakistani men, why did that take 7 years? If you're going to be strong, Zoe, and I don't in any way disrespect Starmer for being strong, what I don't like is it's going one way, and the belief, this is my problem, the belief that anybody who disagrees with the problems we've got caused by mass migration or knife crime or whatever is now going to be labelled far right. I think that's politicising it. I really do.
Well, I think there has been a problem with policing in this country for a number of years. I think there have not been enough police on the streets. People clearly feel like there is a loss of control in some areas. Crime has gone up. People talk about, burglaries not being attended. That is a problem. We saw that Keir Starmer had to enact emergency powers to deal with the riots last week. This is going to raise questions about whether there is enough of a police presence in this country. I can completely see those arguments. I don't believe that there is a two-tier policing system in this country. I think the police have failed to respond accordingly to many different incidents across the last sort of decade or so. But what is clear is that the country does need a police force that can manage the sort of issues we're dealing with, and that the government has got a long way to go to mop up the effects of austerity and the underfunding of public services that have led to a degradation in public order.
James, my point, and I take what Zoe's saying, but my point is this. Is Starmer politicising the problems of last week to favour or show preference in one area rather than across the board? For example, knife crime, which is the scourge of our streets in so many cities. Every time I talk about stop and search, I'm told that stop and search is racist. But 83% of young men who hold knives in London are black men. So that is not an outrageous racist comment. That is a fact. That is a born fact. So why is Starmer quite rightly saying we shouldn't be attacking mosques? Why is he also not saying we shouldn't be attacking British soldiers? We shouldn't be attacking other people? I don't understand that. That's me being honest.
No, there's a lot to disimpact here. I think that there's partly the perception issue that, as you said, that people have. It's that old line that the wife of Caesar must be seen to be beyond reproach. And I think that if this idea has got out there of two-tier policing, even if it wasn't true, and I'll say for a second why I think it is true, even if it wasn't, then there are legitimate grievances that people would have about that. You know, not understanding how sentencing works, not understanding different policing tactics. That would lead to people needing to have some of this stuff explained by someone like our Prime Minister, who now is in charge of the country, needs to start acting and speaking like one. Some of his ministers, somebody like Jess Phillips, was saying, oh, well, no, but these guys out on the streets, these Muslim guys, they thought there was going to be a bunch of far-rightists. So that's not okay for a Home Office minister to try and justify armed militias coming out on the streets as a counter-protest. That's not okay. And why do I think that there really is a kind of problem of two-tier policing? Well, let's look at what happened in Birmingham. There was a large group of people who were out there with weapons, and then a guy the next day from the West Midlands Police was asked why that was policed differently, why there was a much lighter touch presence. And he said, well, we spoke with the self-appointed community leaders beforehand. We knew who most of the people would be there, and we worked out the style of policing that we thought would work. And the journalist quite rightly said, well, OK, but they had lots of weapons, so would you have treated an EDL rally in the same way? And the guy said, well, most people there were there with good intentions. And so basically what he's done there is admitting there are different policing styles for different incidents. And I agree with Zoe, the extent that there aren't enough police officers. Mm-hmm. The first thing Margaret Thatcher did was to give them a great whack-in pay rise when she came in, because she knew she'd need them for all the kind of union rioting and things like that went on. But I think that we should show a much higher level of, let's call it, active kinetic force on the streets, no matter who people are. I think the problem has been, the last thing I'll say on this, the problem has been that whilst all these far-right idiots who, you know, if they've gone out and they've set fire to hotels and horrible things like this, lock them up. We don't need them in our society. Fine.
Absolutely.
But the same other people as well are not being seen the kind of active force that would also dissuade further action. Let's say some of the hateful stuff that's been happening almost every Saturday in London, because the numbers are so high and the police have been told to be worried about inflaming community tensions. You can't have that. That kind of weakness, that kind of treating different groups in different ways because you're worried about what the consequences may be, is the very essence of a two-tier policing system, and I think that's a big problem.
Zoe, listen, I agree with that, I do. Zoe, I just wanted to talk to you as well briefly, because we're going to keep you both for a bit. Starmer's been in for 6 weeks, so wrong to judge straight away, but quite interesting, the figures over the weekend, obviously the weather was great. 700 migrants arriving in the UK in 11 boats in a single day, new figures showing. The Tories, Rwanda wasn't the answer. Apparently Starmer is creating a border force guru and probably another committee, and he's going to do this, that and the other. The fact of the matter is this problem is not going away. My arguments going back to the riots are, I think that the Labour Party would be very wrong if it believed that every single person who is upset by migration, who is upset quite rightly by these two announcements today, Angela Rayner abandoning plans to give Brits Council House priority, right? Terrorists being allowed social housing. I fundamentally want to say, and I'd love your response, that I have no time for those thugs on the right. They should be locked up. But the Labour Party is missing the point if they do not believe there are millions and millions of people who have paid their stamp, have paid in, have never broken the law, and will look at that, Zoe, and go, are you having a laugh? I'm at the back of the queue. I'm a veteran. I've worked all my life. That's where I think there will still be massive, massive issues.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I do think there are lots of people on the left, including me, who talk about immigration and the fact that the current system is broken in many ways. I think we need an asylum system that works a lot quicker. People need to be processed a lot quicker. We need safe and legal routes. But it's also completely reasonable. And anyone who argues it isn't reasonable for citizens in a country to want to know that their government has control over the border, you know, I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing for people to want. So I just want to make, you know, I think it needs to be made really clear that people who have concerns about immigration, that is a reasonable thing to talk about. The problem is how we talk about it. For too long, we've talked about it in a way that dehumanises migrants and refugees. The vast majority of people who come over here are fleeing either a war-torn situation.
But Zoe, I like you.
They're fleeing France.
They're all fleeing France. But this is what I don't get. I like you, right? you throw out the vast majority. This is as much as I know about my life. If I was in a war-torn country and I was trying to save my wife and the numbers of bloody kids I've got, more than Boris Johnson, the minute I escaped a country that was at war, I'd be happy. But that doesn't happen, and I want the Labour Party, or I want somebody to explain to me why there is another reason other than we're a softish whatever, that everybody wants to come to Great Britain, because we roll out the red carpet and ignore our own people. That's my argument, that's all.
Jeremy, when we were part of the EU, we had a returns agreement with Europe. So if people came over here through these clandestine journeys, we could send them back. We had a set number of people we took. Now we have left the EU. Criminal gangs have spotted an opportunity to exploit the fact that when they come here, they won't be able to leave, that we have nowhere else to send them to. But we also have to remember that there are plenty of people have a reason for coming to the UK. They have family connections here. They speak the language. There is plenty of reasons why we should take asylum seekers and refugees. My granddad was an asylum seeker.
To the detriment of our... The point I'm trying to make is that's not an argument that we would ever agree on in its entirety. But, James, just very quickly, and Zoe, I take it, the argument is that those far-right thugs have removed the opportunity, I believe, for reasonable people to argue that we've paid our stamp, we're back of the queue because we're going to be labelled now because of what those far-right thugs do. Very quickly, mate, 30 seconds. What's your response to what Zoe said?
Yeah, I think there's a moral argument for trying to help the people who are most in need. That's true. But the people who are most in need are not the people who are sat on the beaches in France, who are all young men. Where are their, as you say, where are their children? Where are their wives? Every person we end up taking, whether legally or illegally, is somebody who we can't take out of a refugee camp in Jordan, who's a young girl with her whole life ahead of her. It's instead somebody with a lot of different ideas about how perhaps society and culture may be organised, and we're not even then doing anything to change those ideas they have in their heads. And that's a big problem, and we're seeing that on the streets now.
Cheers. Please point, because you asked your Labour-backing commentator very quickly. Labour lost 3 general elections in 14 years, and all that time were waving through disasters in policy, such as the pandemic, and stopping every bit of legislation that tried to stop illegals. They are as much as full. Tony in Bristol, 20 seconds. Zoe, answer that if you can.
Well, I don't know what the question was there.
He said that Labour are as responsible for the problems with illegals because they waved through policy disasters. Every bit of legislation that tried to stop illegals, Labour acted against. What would you say to Tony in Bristol?
Well, that's his opinion. It's quite clear that the Conservative government have presided over a number of failures in the immigration and asylum system, but the new Labour government is trying to implement things that hopefully will deal with some of these issues. So, you know, they've been in 6 weeks.
By scrapping even a ban on letting terrorists come into social housing. I mean, the people watching at home are being taxed for houses for terrorists at this point. That is an illegal thing that the state is going to allow to happen, which is completely bonkers.
Council houses since the 1980s. There's the reason for the social housing crisis.
Sold off to British people who then bought those houses.
Right, hold on. I'm going to a break. I'd love you when we come back, very separately, to say how the Labour Party thinks it looks to people that apparently British people are going to not be prioritised over terrorists and migrants. I'd love that. We're coming back in 3. Don't go anywhere. So I just want to tell you both very quickly. This Labour has been accused of putting the interests of violent criminals above those of hard-working British families after dropping Tory plans to ban terrorists from social housing. Dame Priti Patel, one of the 6 candidates to replace Sunak as Tory leader, claimed the disgraceful decision showed the Labour government could not be trusted on law and order. Somebody rang up during the break and said I'm inciting people to riot by reporting something that's true, James Price. Can you help me out? It's a fact.
Don't worry. You and I will be in the gulag together within a few years, friend. Don't worry about it.
I don't.
But this is the problem. I think what we've got is, you know, we've got a great, robust media in this country. We're on, you know, obviously the best channel right now talking about it. I think there is a dearth of people actually understanding what is going on. And one thing I would like to see either this government or a future one do is something that they do in Singapore, where every year you get a kind of state of the nation where the Prime Minister will stand up and instead of doing kind of soaring rhetoric, will do a boring PowerPoint presentation for 2 hours or something, and we can actually show people the state of things, show people our economy and our lack of economic growth versus somewhere like America, show people the average kind of sentences for violent crimes and how low they are, and show people how many people actually come into this country, for example, because a lot of polling says that people think it's about legally, they think something like 70,000 people a year joining. It's actually over 700,000 last year. And people don't like it when they think it's only a tenth of what it actually is. So I think we can do a lot more with data to get people to understand just how bad things are. That's not inciting violence. People should be angry, but they've seen how badly governments of, frankly, all parties have governed this place for the last 20-odd years.
Zoe, question that somebody put earlier. In your mind, do you think the social cohesion is hanging by a thread in this country?
I think there are lots of... Yes, but I don't blame immigration for that, and I think it's wrong to. I think when you look at what's happened over the past 14 years, where public services have been slashed, local authorities destroyed, things like Sure Start destroyed, schools underfunded, councils underfunded, I think it's really hard to see how you would keep social cohesion going when people have not been given the kind of support that the state is supposed to provide.
This is such an offensive argument to so many people. If the government doesn't tax people lots of money and then spend it on poor people, then they shouldn't be expected to be able to hold a society together. I mean, it's completely ludicrous as an argument. For most of human history, the state has been much, much smaller than it is, and people don't go around rioting all of the time. The idea that Sure Start centres, maybe a few more youth centres would stop all the knife crime. I mean, it's completely ludicrous to suggest that. It's offensive to people as well. The problems we've got are when you have huge numbers of people who are of a different society and a different culture to us coming in here and not being made to integrate properly. That's where a lot of these problems come from.
Zoe?
There are lots of... to be fair, in places like Austria, there are integration and social cohesion programs that help with bringing people who have come from different countries into the country and integrating properly, teaching them, language, giving them language classes, helping them with their education and job applications. We don't have anything like that here in the UK because all those sort of services have been gutted by a Tory government. That is the problem. We have had a government that doesn't care about bringing people together, providing people with support, and therefore...
But can I jump in between the two of you? Bringing people together is one part of it, but I started this 25 minutes ago and I want to finish in this way. I am angry that those far-right thugs, in effect, have trashed what I believe for millions of people is a genuine concern about many things that are going on in this country. When I say that, I'm not in any way condoning those thugs. They should go to jail, absolutely go to jail. But there are many people, both of you who have worked all their lives, who will feel that other groups, cultures, people coming in, whatever, are being favoured. Now, if you are Keir Starmer, and you definitely, and listen, he's done 6 weeks, let's see. If you want to make the police more robust, if you want to control our borders, if you want to improve the National Health Service, if you want to improve education, all those things, which I'm sure they want to do, it has to be across the board, Zoe. And I just really feel with these riots that the message to middle-class white people, I'm going to say it, who are hacked off to the jams, I call them, just about managing, who will tell you in their millions, we're being veterans. This is me making this up. They are going to say, we feel we are at the back of the queue. Labour have to answer that as well, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of social housing, asylum seekers already don't have recourse to public funds. They don't get access to social housing. There's already a test to see how ingrained you are in your community, how long you've lived there before you get social housing. The vast, vast majority of social housing goes to UK citizens. That is a fact. In terms of co-opting the conversation, yeah, I think, what has happened in the past weeks has been awful. It's been rooted in racism and violence. As I said before, there are plenty of people in this country who have legitimate concerns about the immigration system. It's important that Labour addresses those. Yeah. And I think, to be fair, Labour they have a 5-point plan for immigration. Now, you might not agree with it, but you can't deny that it hasn't been spoken about. It has dominated the past elections in this country for the last 20 years. Immigration has been a major issue. It is not the case that it has been silent and there's been this conspiracy of silence. You may have issues with how it's been dealt with. Brexit certainly didn't help. But immigration is being spoken about, and it should continue to be. But we should speak about it in terms that don't dehumanise people and cast all immigrants and asylum seekers as bad people who only want to do ill on this country. It's not true.
James?
Well, one thing I will concede to say is that the last Conservative government made a massive pig's ear out of all this. They did let the floodgates open, and we've had the highest numbers of people coming in with no attempts to have anybody integrate whatsoever. And in that same time as well, having promised to lower migration, as every winning party has done, Tory and Labour, since at least the 1970 1974 election. They've promised to cut immigration, and people have voted for them, and then they've raised it instead. And so people rightly feel that all the parties have just ignored them on this, because something like a confluence of Treasury brain saying that immigration is good for the economy and ignoring other people who are not able to eloquently make arguments against it have stacked up these sorts of problems. And again, I'll join in attacking the Tories. The few governments didn't build nearly enough houses. If you have 700,000 people join in 1 year and you build just over 100,000 houses, where are we going to put everybody? Even if all these people coming over on boats, let alone the legal migrants, were all the next Shakespeare, where are we going to put these people? There's nowhere to put them. The infrastructure cannot cope, and that's leading to other kinds of problems, whether it's social housing, private rental, people buying houses at all. That's a massive problem when people feel they're priced out of their communities and they've got nowhere to live.
I'm going to do 3 hours with you lot next time. You're fantastic. Zoe Grunewald, James Price, thank you very much indeed.